that is Universal Immunization Program, or popularly known as National Immunization Program, wherein government tried to introduce one more vaccine, that is measles. Then came 2014, and when government initiated Mission Indradhanush, and lot of new vaccines were added. So basically, when you consider about UIP, EPI or NIP, whatever you call it, BCG, DPT, OPV, MMR, now extendedly HIB, hepatitis B, rotavirus, pneumococcal virus, and in endemic zones, Japanese encephalitis. These are the rabies is actually into a EPI schedule, and newer vaccines. Which
yes, sir. Sir, day by day, Government of India is introducing one after another each vaccine. Like Rota is already there now, pneumococcal is there. Coming is HCV vaccine. So it is becoming difficult for a general pediatrician to cater for vaccination. So is there any end, or we should forget the vaccination practice?
No, in fact, this is the way that a nation should progress. Initially there were very basic vaccines which were included into EPI because it has to get into a government's finances, programmatic considerations. What is the epidemiology of your nation? Which are those diseases which are causing maximum under 5 deaths? All these things have to be considered, and by one newer vaccines are introduced into our EPI schedule. So I think we all are running for the same cause what a government of India wants. We want to save kids. So in fact, newer vaccines, it is our privilege to counsel our patients, let it introduce into your society, and subsequently government inducts it into their program. So this is the way we have to accept it and go further.
Yes, so sir, it is a sign of India becoming from developing country to developed country, and we should be proud of that.
See, basically 80% of the medical services are given by private practitioners.
Yes, sir.
But at the same time, 80% of vaccination is done by the government.
Government, yes.
So we have only 10 to 20% people coming to you for vaccination.
Yes, sir.
So apart from your national immunization program, we have so many other vaccines which you can really convince people to take those vaccines. So there is no insecurity as far as the pediatrician goes.
Yes, sir. Correct, sir. So, Dr. Khadke sir, you are a part of ACVIP, and it is very prestigious body which suggests Government of India the newer and newer changes in the guidelines, and newer and newer science which is emerging. They suggest to practitioners as well as Government of India, and we are very proud that you are part of ACVIP team this year. So I want to know the last updates which were released by ACVIP in 2021 and recent unpublished one which you were part. So what are the updates in the ACVIP schedule?
See, actually, how I developed interest in immunology and vaccinology was the only thing. When I was started practice, there were different recommendations, and as the recommendations went on changing every year, I was always surprised. Last year this was 2 doses, now it is 1 dose. So I was surprised. So I wanted basically to go into it and see exactly how these functions and how the things are moving. Guidelines, they do change because of the dynamicity of the subject, and more research papers which they come out, and more data comes out, and that data is analyzed by the ACVIP, and then the recommendations are made. This time we have a few recommendations like chickenpox vaccine, which was given at 15 months and 5 years of age. Now we are strongly recommending that you can have second dose of chickenpox at 18 months of age. Similarly, IPV, which is very important, as on a 5 years dose. So 5th year IPV is necessary. So 4 to 6 years booster has to have IPV in it. The reason being, basically now we are polio-free country for so many years, and it has been seen that P1 and P2, they drop in their seroconversion up to 90%, 92%. So we don't want this class again to face an polio epidemic in our country. So we have to boost our immunity. So 5 years IPV dose is must. Another thing which we are proposing to the IIP is basically, except zero polio and pulse polio, please do not use oral polio in your private practice.
Very important.
Except zero polio and pulse polio, don't use oral polio vaccine in your practice. There is some irony from the government part of it also. As you know that we have switched from TOPV to BOPV. We have removed P2. But what has happened to P3 also? So last 2 years, we are struggling to remove this P3 because there is no P3 outbreak for last 20 years.
Right.
So we should have a monovalent vaccine, that is P1 vaccine, which we are recommending to the government, writing letters to the government, and our president is here, and all that communication is going to be there, and probably in 22-23, the recommendation would come for a monovalent OPV.
Yes, sir.
Then Tetraxim has come in market.
Right.
That is basically triple plus your IPV that has come in market. Then Twinrab has come in market. So there was only monoclonal antibodies which were there. Now we have twin monoclonal antibodies which are there. HPV vaccine, that is also being recommended in national immunization schedule. Hopefully, probably in next year, probably it would be in national immunization schedule as a single dose between 9 to 15 years.
Right.
So these are few changes. And typhoid vaccine. Now typhoid vaccine, it was always a debate whether it should be a single dose vaccine or a double dose vaccine. So people used to, ACIP recommends only single dose, but in my practice I give 2 doses. Now it has been fairly established that typhoid vaccine, giving second dose or third dose, do not boost your titers for typhoid. So single dose of typhoid is going to come, and that is the only thing which has to be strictened. I think these are the, anything remaining?
Addition to that is flu vaccine. There was a universal recommendation of 0.5 ml for all of them. Initially, we used to use 0.25 ml up to 3 years of age, and then we used to do with 0.5 ml. The now universal recommendation is use 0.5 ml for all of them. That was
so most important is after introduction and recommendation of many other vaccines, 3 important changes they have suggested is varicella second dose should be given after 3 months of the primary dose. The introduction of IPV at 4 to 5 years of age as a second booster. And thirdly, as Ganesh sir said, flu vaccine, universal doses of 0.5 to everyone. And apart from that, other introduction of new vaccines have been advised. So, Mulay sir, there is always debate which is never ending, that which DPT is better, the painless one or painful one, wholesale or cellular. What is the science and myth behind it?
See, the DPT vaccine has been a boon to the mankind. I think we have 2 options, 2 brilliant options. One is wholesale DPT as well as cellular DPT. And yes, there has always been a $1 million question, as you said. It has been a debate in each and every conference so as to who is better than the other.
Yeah.
However, one should go into the details of the science. When it comes to wholesale DPT, this wholesale DPT utilizes TH1 pathway and TH17 pathway. On the contrary, a cellular vaccine utilizes TH2 and TH17 pathway. The basic thing is that TH1 and TH17 pathway, this is a robust kind of immunity, and you expect the antibody titers to be very high, long-lasting, and as a result of which you will need the primary immunization with the help of wholesale DPT could be a better choice as compared to a cellular DPT. And, along with that, when it comes to a wholesale DPT, your second question is a cellular DPT. To my mind, one more thing one should not forget is transmissibility and the what do you call the advantage of a community herd effect is also very important, and that comes with wholesale DPT itself rather than a cellular DPT. So there is no doubt, it is beyond that, wholesale DPT is always better as compared to the cellular DPT.
Okay, sir.
This is actually really a $1 million question, because this has been, every conference we are asking this question, and from dais we are getting different answers. I just want to clarify today my take on this particular aspect. Basically, we have 2 different vaccines. One is wholesale vaccine, and other is a cellular vaccine. What do we really mean by the difference between these 2 is basically when we use wholesale vaccine, we use whole cell. That means there are a lot of antigens into it. Whereas when we use a cellular, we limit our antigens to few number. Those are called as components. Now, pathogenesis, if you look into pertussis, the debate is actually going to be between pertussis of wholesale and pertussis of acellular, right?
Correct.
Now, when we say that pertussis pathogenesis, it actually is being caused by multiple virulence factors from that cell itself. So when we use wholesale, we are actually utilizing these many antigens at one go. You know, the other difference, what Sudhir has said is absolutely correct. What happens in wholesale is, we have these multiple virulence factors embedded into it. The most important antigen out of it is LPS, that is lipopolysaccharide, which is actually into the cell wall, which is not there into a cellular vaccine because it is acellular. Now, cell wall has to be there in wholesale. Cell wall contains lipopolysaccharide. Now, this lipopolysaccharide acts as a PAMP. Now, what is PAMP? PAMP is something which initiates the pro-inflammatory cytokines. Now, these pro-inflammatory cytokines stimulate Th1 and Th17. Now, what do? They stimulate T cell immunity. So that's the reason why wholesale has, prolonged kind of protection. That's one thing. Second thing is, when they stimulate Th1 and Th17, they stimulate mucosal immunity as well. Now, every vaccine, see, when we ask which is the best vaccine, the vaccine which prevents, that's one thing, and then the vaccine which has a better immunogenicity. Now, this vaccine, wholesale, helps into reducing the transmission as well, which acellular do not. Now, in case of acellular vaccines, what happens is there is no cell wall, so there is no LPS. So this vaccine has to work on adjuvants, like aluminum or something like that. Now, what do these adjuvants do? These adjuvants stimulate B cells, and they fail to stimulate T cells. And we all know that what is the importance of a vaccine when it stimulates both B and T as well. It does stimulate T, but to a very lesser extent. The biggest difference between these two vaccines is wholesale stimulates lot of antigens. It gets immunogenicity from against lot of antigens, whereas acellular has only few components: 1 component, 2 component, 3 component, or 5 component. So rest of the antigens are not really covered by acellular. So that is the difference. Now, all these baboon studies have definitely told us that wholesale has a definite advantage over acellular. But having said that, the reactogenicity also something which matters.
Correct.
With introduction of acellular, almost 2/3 of reactogenicity has gone down. So on one side we have reactogenicity, on the other side we have prolonged protection, mucosal immunity. So this is going to be the difference between those two of them. So categorically to say that one is better than the other is absolutely not true. You have your situation into your private practice, you have to counsel your patients one-on-one and then decide which is going to be better for that child.
Yes, sir.
Also, let me clear, the Western world has moved from wholesale to DPT. It is because of reactogenicity, not because of the superiority of one of the other.
Right, sir. So if we are worried, parents are worried about reactogenicity.
Just a comment. Basically, those who are using acellular pertussis should not feel really shy,
Exactly.
because IAP has already documented that in first year of life, whether you use wholesale pertussis or acellular pertussis, the antibody titers are same.
Right.
Now, in this 22-23 ACVIP meeting, there has been again research of wholesale pertussis, and everybody feels that at least a dose of a wholesale pertussis followed by your acellular pertussis would also make a large difference in the protection.
Point well taken, sir. If you are ensuring the boosters at 4 years and 9 years with acellular, then there should not be any issue with shying away from acellular. Okay. So one question was interchangeability of this vaccine, acellular and wholesale, because of availability. Can we do that, like child has taken a cellular vaccine elsewhere and he has come here and we don't have that? So unless, I know that it is not advisable, but still there is no option right now.
My take on always interchangeability is one thing. It's more of a satire, that's what I say. Do you use t-shirt on a dhoti? Absolutely not. It does not look good, okay? But when you use it, if you have you have a compulsion going naked into the market, you would rather use it because you don't want to go it that way. Yeah. So interchangeability is again the same thing, You should never do it unless and until it is dire emergency in your practice. Otherwise, you shouldn't do. In case of wholesale
brand
and cellular,
interchangeability is okay?
Pardon?
Brand interchangeability?
even brand interchangeable. See, they come from a different platform. Yeah. Somebody has a different carrier protein, somebody has a different carrier protein. The content is same, different, the platform is different, the process of making is different. So it is not wise to change the vaccines unless and until you have a problem. But in case of wholesale and cellular, there is rather a different study which has come up. Right. It is said that in primary vaccine series, if you use wholesale even one dose, it in fact induces Th1 and Th17 to a particular level. And that helps better than using all cellular into a primary series. So that can be done.
So primary vaccination, if you are introducing one wholesale pertussis, that will be giving better this thing. About rota interchangeability also the same things applies, right, sir? Okay. Mono. Right. Yeah. There is a fractional dose IPV in government schedule, and we are using combination vaccine with full dose of IPV. So government says it is a just risk mitigation dose, and now they have introduced from 1st January third dose as well. So what is your take, sir? Mulay sir, you will take, or Deepika?
Actually, government is giving fractional IPV since last few years, and it has been shown that fractional IPV which we give intradermal, that is almost equal immunogenic as we give intramuscular. So there should not be any difference as far as fractional IPV and
right. So fractional doses, if given 2 doses, it is equally immunogenic. Why there was a need for introducing third dose? Khadke sir, you will take.
It is just like what we are saying, a booster dose at 4.5 years to 5 years. The government has also statistics to say that basically there is an antibody winning which is occurring. So this third fractional IPV is like boosting the previous 2 IPVs which has been given by the government.
So we are expecting IPV
this is a booster dose.
Right, sir. So are we expecting government to introduce at 4.5 years also in near future?
In the near future, probably, because the fractional and full dose has similar seroconversion.
Right. So whether fractional or full dose, we should always have a second dose and third dose gap, and that acts as a booster, as sir said. Deepika, hepatitis B vaccine, there is a change and a kind of compulsion by government of India to give in at birth setting. So what is your take on that?
Recently, government has emphasized that hepatitis B should be given as early as possible after the birth. That is almost within 24 hours, or as you have already mentioned, as early as in the labor room even we can give that vaccine. The basic logic behind that is what we expect vertical transmission. Along with that, there is a horizontal transmission in hepatitis B, which is more risky. Like as the newborn acquires the hepatitis B earlier the age hepatitis B is acquired, the more chances of chronicity or severity of infection is there. So it's better you give as early as possible. And we are also giving further doses at 6, 10, 14 weeks. Actually, we are giving one additional dose, giving at birth and again 6, 10, 14 weeks. 016 has to be the ideal schedule, but as the hepatitis B vaccine has got less reactogenicity, a 4th dose also is acceptable. And
so are we not overdoing with the booster, like 4 doses, and then sometimes we give at 1.5 year also as a hexagon booster. So it is many hepatitis B are returned.
No, 4 doses should be in a 5-year booster.
Yeah.
See, basically it comes as a combination, so we give it at 1.5 or 2, and it's a pragmatic this thing. But at the same time, you can't give DPT, wholesale DPT, more than 5 doses. Yeah. So here we are giving that divide. Hepatitis B, n number of vaccines will not have hyporesponsive, neither they would have adverse reactions. But if you use wholesale DPT, more than 5, probably you will have adverse reaction.
Correct. So giving additional doses of hepatitis.
See, the basic thing in immunology or vaccine immunology is killed vaccines, you need lot of dosages, one after the other. Why do you need them? Is basically to reactivate the memory B cells. You have a gap, you start waning of your antibodies, you have no protection, then again you need a booster. Now, how many times you keep on giving a vaccine? That's a premier question. But it is being said that you have a natural boosting as well in the society. So that's the reason why you don't get it. But in case of hepatitis B, probably this is a vaccine which is a killed one, so that you can give multiple times, doesn't even matter for that. And as sir has said, this particular vaccine do not have a hyper-responsiveness when you give it multiple times. So might as well it goes well with combination vaccine.
Right. So take home message is start giving hepatitis B vaccine at birth. It is mandatory by government to give hepatitis B vaccine before the child is discharged from your hospital. Now pneumococcal vaccines are government is giving new PCV10. Most of us also are giving in private practice new PCV10. Which are the serotypes that are removed from the PCV13?
See, PCV10 doesn't have 3, 4 and 18C. Now, 77% of the Indian serotypes are covered by your PCV10, which cost you around 2,000 rupees. And in PCV13, which costs you around 4,000 rupees, has an age of only 11% over your PCV10 as far as the efficacy goes. The serotype 3 which is there in PCV13 is really not said to be immunogenic. So even if the serotype 3 is there in PCV13, it is not that immunogenic as seen. So that 3 is removed, 4 is removed, and 4 is a devastating pneumonia, and 18C is also removed. So PCV10 for Indian scenario, 77% of the serotypes are covered. What is more important is when you have a costly vaccine, you have a less coverage. Unless you have a greater coverage, the transmission will not stop and the serotypes will go on increasing.
Correct.
So basically with PCV10 probably will have a good coverage.
Correct. So basically government thought of introducing this vaccine at mass scale because unless we have an entire population covered with almost 80% common serotypes, we will have the circulation of the disease, and the most important hindering factor for giving PCV13 was its cost. Sir, there are new
So here I would want to differ because, see, even if you are covering 77% of serotypes which are there in your epidemiology, you cannot keep PCV13 away from you. Why? Because as sir has rightly said, 3, 4 and 18C. Now 3, even though the efficacy is not as good because of the capsule and all that, but still it has 4.9% of cases coming from 3. And that too, if you believe me, they are all necrotizing pneumonitis.
Right.
They are not just pneumonia, they are necrotizing pneumonitis. And by that, we always intend to give a vaccine to prevent a severe disease, not a disease which is very common, which is treated by any antibiotics for that matter. So even 3 counts. Now, when you think about 4 and 18C, they are outbreak serotypes. Now, once I say that they are outbreak serotypes, that means they come into epidemics. Now, once they come in epidemics, it is not a question of 1 or 2 kids. It is a question of society. Yes. So that's the reason PCV13 would always score over others.
Right. So more and more types are going to get added in coming years, like PCV15, PCV20. So where is the end to that?
See, basically, adding serotypes to the PCVs are not going to work because you have to have a serotype prevalence in your country. So whenever you have a serotype prevalence in your country which is matching to the vaccine serotypes, then only it is going to be used. About 14 and 15, which is going to be in pipeline and very shortly it will be launched. But about the PCV20, it is not licensed below 18 years of age. So it is an adult vaccine. So nothing to be considered about the PCV20 itself. So what is left is only PCV14 and 15, which is probably going to be shortly marketed very soon.
Yes, sir. So we can use those also. Mulay sir, typhoid vaccine, how important is the carrier protein? One vaccine is having CRM197 as a carrier protein, other is having TT as a carrier protein, and single dose versus multiple doses as sir has just touched it.
This typhoid vaccine has a polysaccharide. This polysaccharide is from wild Salmonella, and the other it comes from one more antigen is there. The various and this thing protein binds are in the form of TT, CRM197, it is DT, and there is one more protein, Pseudomonas, exoprotein, Pseudomonas. Basically, there is no advantage of this protein, this thing, CRM197 TT, but it is said that this CRM197 is a mutant of DT, non-toxic mutant of say DT. However, there are no robust studies claiming the CRM-1 net is superior to TT. And the other question that comes to is typhoid vaccine. This recommended dose for typhoid vaccine beyond 6 years to 45 years is a single dose that has been used as the only reason being this typhoid vaccine is typhoid infection is very prevalent in India. There is always a probability of boosting effect, or natural boosting is always there, which is claimed by very robust antibody titers, which are usually seen at 5 years. So,
okay. So the literature says that basically by giving second dose, nothing boosting is happening. Please understand why we are not saying that the second dose is necessary. The second dose is not necessary because there is nothing boosting which is happening. So whatever effect which you are going to get with single dose, whether you do 2 doses or 3 doses, it doesn't matter.
So should we say that the efficacy of the vaccine itself is less? Because audience poll, how many of you got a second, like after giving typhoid vaccine, how many culture proven typhoid cases you got? Many of us, right?
I have a very, I have experienced on this particular aspect of typhoid, 1 or 2. SPIP members, when you ask them in personal, they say that 2. When you ask them on a diet, they say 1. I in fact have a submission to the president of IIP sitting here across. I have always been, taken a keen interest on this particular aspect. See, my own take, if you ask me, I will always go with 2 rather than 1. And why 2 and why not 1? So I have reasons to say for that. One is, see, why was 1 declared by IIP? IIP recommendation came that only 1 is required, and why was that? That was basically WHO and IIP together found that after giving 1 vaccine of typhoid, the protective GMTs were way high from the correlate of protection. That was almost 3.5 ELISA units per ml or 4.3 ml microgram per ml. That was a minimum that we were requiring. And after 1 vaccine, they showed a lot of GMTs, higher up GMTs. And that too, it lasted for 5 years. So that was the reason they said, yeah, 1 is enough. But this was one story. The other story is, you have seen lot of kids who received 1 dose of vaccine and then they came salmonella typhi culture positive typhoid. Right. Now, why was that happening? There are reasons. Now, see, one reason is, if you see this GMT titers after giving 1 vaccine typhoid dose, these GMTs initially had a dip and then they started rising. Why was that happening? That was happening because of the natural boosting. That means after vaccine you still need natural boosting. That's one thing. Now second thing was, what was found was the avidity of antibodies in non-boosted kids were very poor. That was second thing. Third thing was, this is something, a disease of typhoid is called as a disease of inoculum-based bacterial disease. Now what is inoculum-based bacterial disease is? This means if you have a lot of concentration of antigens into your body, you probably may not respond to the vaccine. And that is the reason why 1 vaccine is not sufficient when you encounter a lot of antigens coming across to your body. That's the reason I would always go for 2. But again, ACVIP sir is sitting here.
See, basically, none of the vaccine claims that there is a 100% zero protection of a child after giving the vaccine.
Yes, sir.
Please understand. What I am telling you and what I am making a point is basically there is no boosting effect after giving a second dose. So whatever protection you are going to get with first dose is going to be the second dose. So basically it is not 100% that protection is given by the typhoid vaccine.
Contradiction is there is only 1 dose.
Yeah.
When there were breakthrough varicella, these people came with the second dose. Yes. Now with typhoid, we have 1 dose and we are getting a lot of cases. They say no, we stick to 1.
No, actually it's
what is required is more and more case reporting and data generation is required for ACVIP to accept it as a second.
one more question I want to ask.
Sir,
Is there, can we rely upon the natural boosting one?
Definitely.
And is the immunity that robust below 2 years of age?
With so much of distillery culture, now there is no natural.
natural boosting. So you will have pockets of people who have natural boosting.
I think one session should be there for typhoid vaccine itself. Let's move on. Hepatitis A vaccine, Deepika, will you take it live single dose but it is a Chinese vaccine versus field vaccine, which is not non-Chinese. So there is a lot of Mera Desh right now going on.
No, actually, there have been trials in China, and it has been shown that single dose of live vaccine versus two doses, both are equally immunogenic.
So point is, both are having equal immunogenicity and longevity also. So use hepatitis A vaccine and any whichever is available you can use.
Yes.
Coming to the
You go back to the see the pitch on it. Live single dose, but Chinese.
so till we get our Indian vaccine, we can still continue getting Chinese vaccine. Sir, you are having OnePlus phone, sir. That is also Chinese. So till we get a good Indian one, we can use Chinese. There is no this thing about it. Coming to Japanese encephalitis vaccine, should it be given to all beyond endemic zone? The disease is very bad, 1/3 mortality, 1/3 morbidity. So why ACVIP is having reservations of required? Every now and then more district government is adding to the recommended dose. Sir, Khadke sir will take this.
See, there has been a lot of arguments in ACVIP also. See, in this GE vaccine, government is declaring every year more and more endemic districts. And we have to follow the law of land. But at the same time, all my private practitioners can give GE vaccine because the WHO says that if there is a vicinity of that district which is endemic to you and the similar climatic conditions which are conducive for GE, then please go ahead and give GE, you have protection of WHO. So in my private practice, I really say that basically when Jalna is endemic, Pune is endemic, they are just nearby me.
Absolutely, sir. So for
See, here, I want to ask you a question.
no, I am better side.
This is an analogy. You know? I just want to ask you something. When will you build your shelter? Before rains, during rains, or after rains?
Absolutely, sir.
Before rains, right? Because there's no point in building your shelter when rains have already started. Why I'm saying this is, 2006, only 4 states were endemic. Now 2020, 12 states have become endemic. 2006, only 11 districts were endemic. Now 2020, 336 districts have become endemic.
Absolutely.
Latur wasn't endemic 2 years before Latur became endemic. So should I keep on waiting that when will Aurangabad become an endemic and I start vaccinating? Till then, whosoever have lost their lives, they are okay. No, because there was no recommendation, I am not giving it. It doesn't go that way. But having said that, everything is not based on emotions. In vaccinology, it has to go with whatever the data that is being provided to the scientific research committee. We are somewhere lacking in providing them that data.
Yeah.
Almost all AES cases, every one of you I know handled at least few AES cases into a month of time. But no one really dares to investigate what kind of viral etiology it has and we don't report it. It is our problem, it is not government's problem. So it is upfront, we should be,
Right. So what sir is saying is try to investigate, try to find out if it is not a private like cost factor is there, then keep on sending to NIV Pune. They do it absolutely free and get the type done, and most of the cases we are finding JE in spite of child is not travelled anywhere or that exposure to Bihar population is not there, still we are getting, and this life-threatening diseases gradually it will come in ACVI. Sir, we are blind followers of ACVI. So you have to take it as a one dose.
That's what I said, that basically if you have endemic
Absolutely. Yes.
distance is not measured.
Yes. Doesn't matter, and we should start offering this and document that you have offered this vaccine. Audience question will take just. We have a time for audience question.
Sir, 3 to 4 years back, government gives single dose of the mass immunization in some district. It is sufficient to give booster.
So that is a campaign mode. It is not.
So campaign mode it is given as a single dose.
That is a different story. When a
all vaccines endemic, initially they have to conduct a campaign mode by giving one dose. And then they start the regular vaccination. So that's a different story.
But if the child is with the mass immunization, you do 2 doses or only one
with single dose. Yeah. So, Deepika, rabies vaccine, there is an ongoing debate of 4 doses versus 5 doses. WHO has recently recommended 4 doses are enough, and the government of SAGE is recommending 5 doses in government hospitals. So there is a little controversy about that. Can you, because this is again a life-threatening disease.
As just we previously discussed, JE vaccine, as sir said, we should not wait for the recommendations because surrounding districts already are having cases. So similar thing applies. Like the disease is so dreadful. 4 doses, 5 doses. Government ACVIP recommends 5 doses. IIP hasn't changed it, and WHO recommends 4 doses. Immunogenicity wise, both are equal, and even if we are giving 4 doses, we are following WHO, which is a standard body.
So even if you are giving 4 doses, you are still protected by the law because
we should not
WHO
have any legal implications as far as I
right.
think.
So
And
suppose there is a child who
we are,
comes. Yeah.
if we only thing is if we are in a government setup and if you are not
So
giving the 5th dose, then there
So
should
if
be
you are sitting in a government setup, you have to follow the government guideline of giving 5 doses. I agree to that. Child came with category 3 wild animal bite within 2.5 months of previous complete rabies vaccination. What we should do?
Category 3, even if it is a category 3 and wild animal bite or a dog bite, whenever we complete immunization schedule, we get protection up to 3 months. So anything we have to give after 3 months. So no immunoglobulin is required, and as we are well within the protection zone, 2.5 months is there.
So
no need of
previously
another
vaccinated child, within 3 months if he comes, no vaccination. After 3 months he comes, any time in life, 2 doses at 0 and 3 are sufficient. No need of repeating again 4 doses or 5 doses. And second time immunoglobulin is not required at all. Which animal does not give does not need rabies vaccination?
These are rodents like domestic rats, then bats, which are found in India. Squirrels.
Any warm-blooded animal we should always, there was something, house cat is there, we should not take, it's just a scratch. So always this is which bullet always kills is a rabies vaccine, it's a bullet-shaped vaccine. So always offer the vaccination, document on your paper and give the protection. Coming to flu vaccine, as we know that dose is universally now 0.5 to all ages beyond 6 months. Sir, can you tell me this NH and SH, what is this funda, and India, what should we follow?
See, India has a peculiar position geographically. It actually is into northern hemisphere, but the climate is almost like a southern hemisphere. So we all are always into a fix, should we be giving a northern hemisphere vaccine or a southern hemisphere vaccine? The problem is, WHO has put us into a southern hemisphere zone. So whenever it comes for us to give a vaccine, we always would prefer a southern hemisphere vaccine. Now southern hemisphere vaccine would come up into pre-monsoon time. April, May is the ideal time to give your SH vaccine. But having said that, if a patient comes to you into a winter zone and you do not have a SH vaccine available into your cupboard or your fridge, probably you would be giving a northern. So the dictum is, whichever is available to you at winter time, you give that. But and then reschedule him to come for pre-monsoon time the next year. So southern hemisphere vaccine.
So whatever vaccine available is in your basket, first time he is coming, give 2 doses, and then later on shift to the southern hemisphere pre-monsoon zone to everyone. COVID vaccination, Ganesh sir, you are very expert in this. NTAG stand for children below 12 years. Every child is, my 11-year-old is asking when I am getting, you all have taken and doing maja.
Now the answer lies here is, how many of you are really thinking to take one more booster now? Raise your hands. None of them.
None.
So if you are not thinking for yourself, I don't know whether they will really think.
Are we late, sir, for offering to 12 years, below 12 years?
Yes. The thing is, this is on cards. Even government is into a fix whether it should be vaccinating their kids between 6 to or 5 to 12 years of age or not. Experts committee hasn't given its opinion as yet. So probably very soon. But the Corbevax from Biological E has been given emergency use authorization to give vaccine for 6 to 12 years, and Covaxin from 5 to 12 years. EU has already been given. Probably they will take up a call and decide whether to be given it or not.
So now nasal vaccine of serum is coming, sir. Sorry, Bharat Biotech is coming, sir. Should we take as a booster? It
This is again a wonderful vaccine which has come up, which is actually a recombinant, non-replicating, vector-based adenovirus vaccine, which is actually a parallel of Covishield. The route is different. The additional advantage of it is it creates mucosal immunity as well. So the transmission will be cut down. Previous COVID vaccines do not work on transmission itself because they do not generate mucosal immunity as part. But this particular vaccine has that added advantage. So this is a wonderful vaccine which is coming up. You can go ahead.
Yeah, so the previous vaccinations were to prevent the serious form of disease, and this vaccine is particularly to prevent the nasopharyngeal carriage to the community. So we should, if it is offered, we should always take for it. Cervical cancer vaccine, Mulay sir, can you take this? This is a 10-year-old affluent caste girl. Parent came was vaccination. Now we are offering multiple, like 4 doses versus 4-valent versus 9-valent.
We just have 4-valent vaccine, 9-valent vaccine, and a bivalent vaccine. Bivalent vaccine is right now not available.
Yeah.
4-valent contains 16, 18, 6, and 11. While the 9-valent vaccine.
Which one should I take, sir? Now cost is not a problem.
See, 4-valent vaccine and 9-valent vaccine, there is a place, different place for both the vaccines. 9-valent vaccine is always better, but it comes with a cost. And 4-valent vaccine, yes, you have a good option.
Yeah. So serum is coming with the cervical cancer vaccine for children, sir. Now everyone should get that single dose or private practice of 3 doses of 9-valent.
Basically, whenever it comes in a universal immunization program, there has been study of 3 doses, 2 doses, 1 dose, and even SAGE, that is a committee, has also said that the single dose in national immunization schedule would give a good protection between 9 to 15 years of age. So probably it is going to come very soon. And,
Yes. So is it a high time to change the name of the vaccine as a cervical cancer vaccine? Because
Yes.
Male children also are offered this.
See, previously our priority was only cervical cancer.
Yes.
Now it has expanded that we see head and neck cancers, laryngeal cancers, oral papillomatosis, respiratory papillomatosis, anal cancers, penile cancers, vaginal cancers. All those can be prevented by your Gardasil 9.
So a word about Ganesh sir about missed vaccination. In COVID time, many children took first vaccine before COVID and they missed about second vaccine. That was major cause of measles outbreak, what we said. So how to go about that? They should complete the second dose or they should restart again in
When it comes to totally unvaccinated kid with 3 years, I should give a dose of DPT, either a cellular or wholesale DPT at 0.16 and a booster after 6 months. I should give the second booster as well as he is beyond he is less than 4 years of age. Along with that, I would like to give PCV vaccine. PCV vaccine can be in the form of PCV13 itself, single dose. If it is PCV10, I would like to give 2 doses at an interval of 8 weeks. IPV, 2 doses at an interval of 8 weeks again. Yes. I will have to give measles strengthening vaccine in the form of MMR at 3 months interval. 2 doses of chickenpox as well at a distance of 3 months again. And depending upon where that baby is residing, if he is in a J endemic area, I would also like to have that.
So complete the vaccination schedule with second dose, no need of doing again primary dose. Sir, Ganesh sir, one line answer for each one of them. Vaccine in special situation like child was on steroid or immunosuppressant agent.
All 3 situations, exception is live vaccine, not for kill vaccine. So first take is steroids. If you are giving 2 mg per kg per day or in total of 20 mg per day for 2 months if you are giving, you are not supposed to give vaccine for 1 month. You have to delay it by 1 month. But if you are into an alternate day regime of nephrotic syndrome like situation, or if you are taking intranasal, if you are taking local antibiotic creams, you can very well go ahead and give it. Now the second is you have to, if you have taken IVIG, in what dose you have taken, that also matters.
So 2 gram per kg large dose.
Yeah, then you have to extend it for almost 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months.
And
So
the last
after IVIG, 6 to 9 months, we should wait for the live vaccine. Yeah.
Newborn with mother seropositive MDR TB on COVID, you can very well do.
So mother's condition, whatever it is open case of TB or she's COVID or MDR or seropositive, we should give live vaccine at birth. So, Khadke sir, just touch on this adult vaccination. Many of us want to take adult vaccines.
See, we took the advantage of vaccinating adults because the pediatrician has the onus of immunization means or vaccination means where the pediatrician don't know. So I did 500 doctors adult immunization with all these vaccines. Flu, PCV, TDM, COVID scenario because there was no OPD.
Yeah. So should we give, sir, for parents in our clinic? Should we give this vaccine to parents in our clinic?
Yes, we should.
So we have to keep the adult vaccination kit also ready.
Failing immunization practices, we have the different domain coming up is adult vaccine.
So jokes are always tells happy birthday flu vaccine to you. So everyone on our birthday take flu vaccine. Okay.
We are sorry that we are exceeding time. I think.
Okay, sir, I have just one question for you.
Sorry.
Since COVID was not having your OPD was vacant, you are vaccinating adults. Have you restarted vaccinating adults since your vaccination OPD is full?
So, to my surprise, 500 doctors were immunized in that COVID. That I